Welcome to In the Trenches, where entrepreneurs, artists, writers, designers, inventors, warriors, and leaders share their stories of doing the hard, creative work that impacts all of our lives. Let the journey inspire you to do something worthwhile, build something bold, and create your life's work. And now, your host, Tom Morkis.
On to another broadcast of In the Trenches. I'm really excited to have on the show today Greg Rollett, who is the founder of Ambitious.com. So Greg, thanks so much for being on the call with us today.
Man, super excited to be here, man. This is going to be fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I apologize. Sometimes I've been stumbling over my words today. This is like podcast, I think number 6 today. So now that said, I'm very excited about this one because looking at your bio on LinkedIn and obviously what you're doing with Ambitious, you have a pretty almost ridiculous track record. It seems like of the different things you've done in a varying industries and niches. So I'm really excited to get into that. But why don't we start kind of with your story and what you're doing with Ambitious, and then we can kind of maybe work our way backward a little bit to how you got there.
Yeah, it's almost fitting as you said that like now I'm running Ambitious.com because I have been very ambitious since the time I was 16. I started a record label because I wanted to be Master P. A white dude from like the suburbs wanted to be Master P, but started a record label, started a lot of businesses, been fortunate to travel the country and now travel the world, do all kinds of cool stuff. And what I wanted to do with Ambitious.com when we started it is I wanted to give other young people an outlet to learn how they can do the same thing, because I meet so many people who are, they're 25, 26, they just got out of college, they're starting their professional career, and that's all they do. They define themselves by, I'm an insurance adjuster, I'm a real estate agent, I'm a consultant, and that's not who we are as people. I'm 32, but like I'm a dad, I'm a CrossFitter, I'm a business owner, I'm an author, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a surfer. Like I do all these things, and I want to give people that outlet to know that, hey, it's okay to like some weird stuff, right? Like I want to like learn parkour, right? I've been talking about that a lot lately. It sounds ridiculous, right? For like a dad with 2 kids that like want to learn how to backflip at parks. But like I want to let people know that it's okay to have these ambitions and want to do cool stuff in life. And so we created this network to teach people, the places, and things to help them to become more ambitious, but also give them the how-tos, because they might be like, you know what, Tom, I do want to go and travel, but I don't know where to start. I do want to stop watching Netflix on Friday night, but I don't know what to do. And so we want to give them the inspiration, but also the how-to so they can go and do that. And that's kind of been my mission with what we're building now at Ambitious.com.
Cool. So before we dive into everything you're doing with Ambitious, because that's where I think the core of this conversation is going to go, take us back a little bit to your time as a rapper and what that led you to kind of starting your own business and marketing other musicians.
Yeah, so I was not poor, but I was the poor kid at a rich high school, and all the kids rocked these like dope Tommy Hilfiger polo shirts. It looks really corny looking back now, but at the time they were all rocking these dope, Tommy Hilfiger polo shirts and polo shirts and whatever the case, and my mom and dad looked at me like I was freaking nuts. I was just spend $50-$60 on a shirt when we could barely put food on the table and all that fun stuff. So I knew from a young age that if I wanted to have materialistic things, that I needed to go out and find a way to do it. So I saw, and this is back 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, like the hip hop artists that I looked up to at the time looked like, from a materialistic standpoint, that they had kind of what I wanted to have. And I was like, man, what if I just did what they did? And so at 16, they let me out of school at noon every day. This is like the craziest idea that a school had ever, to start a project. And I started a record label. Like I said earlier, I wanted to be like Master P, because he couldn't really rap all that good, didn't really make his own beats, but he sold a lot of albums and he made a lot of money, and then he signed all his friends to his record label. And I was like, dude, I can do that. So I did that, and I actually created a record label. We put out our first album, senior year of high school. Started bringing it to, the parties on the weekends, and, we'd sell, 100 CDs at $5 a piece on a Friday night. Like, that's a lot of cash for a 16, 17-year-old kid. And it was awesome. And kind of took that, grew it, found out that I wasn't, going to be the next Eminem, but I founded we started a band, kind of Linkin Park-esque, and I traveled the country, played everywhere from Madison Square Garden to the Knitting Factory in LA. I've recorded everyone from, Bone Thugs and Harmony in my dorm room to, performing with Daughtry and Seven Dust and, some of the biggest bands in the world. Left the music industry because there's a whole lot of money in the music industry, if you're not aware. Unless you are like Taylor Swift, you're broke. And I got married, and my wife wanted me to like support her, maybe like pay rent, like for once in my life. And so I got into internet marketing, fell into helping other musicians to grow their business, and started selling products online. And it was great. I was helping them to get more fans, to book shows, to do all the things that we were doing in the music industry, and that led into meeting my partner now, Nick Nanton. Where he was actually seeing a lot of the stuff that I was writing. I was one of Mashable's writers on the music industry. I wrote for a lot of other music industry publications, which we're going to talk a little bit about later, of how to use media to grow your business. I was writing for all these places, and my now partner saw me writing for Mashable. He's like, "Hey man, we should hang out." And he sent me this proposition and said, "Hey, I want to make you a partner at the company, and you can actually have clients that are not musicians and that have real credit cards and can pay for your services." And it was a great transition, and I loved it. And we've been flying high ever since. We have about 2,800 clients in 38 different countries, helping them become best-selling authors, getting them on TV and in some of the biggest media outlets in the world. And that's kind of the Cliff Note version of the journey from rapper and rock band to running a media agency and now building a media platform on the back end of that.
Awesome. Wow. Pretty epic. So tell me a little bit about, what led you from, of all these different things that you've been a part of, how'd you get into writing for Mashable? How'd you write for all these different resources and different outlets? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I love that. So like a lot of people, and I started a blog. Maybe you're looking to start a podcast today. Maybe you're looking to start a website. Whatever the case is, you're looking to start something. And we all have that like Field of Dreams moment, right? Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams, like if you build it, they will come. And then you build the thing and you start blogging, you start podcasting, you build your e-commerce store, whatever you're building, and no one freaking comes. Right. And it sucks because you have a love of the labor. You just wrote the most epic post ever. You just did the best interview on your podcast ever, but no one showed up to listen to it, to read it, to take action on it, to buy your products. And that's exactly what happened to me. I started this blog to help musicians, and I was writing really what I thought was really good stuff, but I had zero traffic. And I was like, man, it would be awesome if I had like a bunch of people reading this. So I quickly learned that from the music industry, if I wanted a bunch of people to show up at my show, it was much easier for me to be the opening act for a big musician than to try and sell the place out on my own if they didn't know me. Right. And so in the music world, we opened up for bands like Daughtry, who was on American Idol. Like he would have, a couple thousand people show up. And we didn't have to do any effort. We just got the benefit of him, being the headliner, and we get the benefit of it. And I was like, what if we did that same kind of strategy and we did it online? So I was like, who are the big places where musicians go to get their news? Where are they getting industry news? Where are they getting insights? Where are they checking out to see where the latest tech is or the latest gizmos or whatever it is? Mashable was one of them. Hypebot was one of them. I mean, there's a ton of sites. We did, and I was like, man, like there's a gazillion people reading Mashable. A portion of them obviously are music fans. What if I could just get a portion of their people? And I was like the opening act on Mashable.com, and they funneled traffic to me. And that was like the thought process, right? Is that I stole it right from the music world. I wanted to be the opening act on someone else's site, and I can siphon off some of their traffic. And so how I did it for Mashable is I literally I Googled how to write for Mashable, and Mashable had here's how you write a post for us. And you had to submit, a couple topics and ideas. Here's where a lot of people get it wrong. When I look to go and write on other people's platforms, I write and give the best content that I possibly can. I don't save it and hoard it for my own site. I write the best stuff and I give away the best stuff on other people's site because I want that to be the best first impression. And I also want them to write it, and I want them to publish what I'm going to write. So it's got to be the best stuff. Most people, they do it, kind of halfway, and they kind of slap something together like here's 5 tips to X. No, write your best stuff. Get real research. The other thing, the leverage that I got from Mashable, which was really cool, and this is why I say aim high, aim for the best publications. Once I said that, hey, I'm a columnist from Mashable, well, now all of a sudden I got major label artists to pay attention to me because they all wanted to be covered on Mashable. So one of the articles I wrote was 5 ways musicians are using social media to grow their business. And I got a guy by the name of Mike Posner. It was right when he was about to launch the song Cooler Than Me. Like I got him because he wanted to be broken on Mashable. I got Bone Thugs and Harmony. I already had kind of a relationship with them through recording them, but now they wanted to get in on the action. And so all of a sudden you say, hey, I'm writing for Mashable. Well, now I got quotes from these people. I got better research. The article went on Mashable.com, and now it's driving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to my site because they're getting millions of viewers, and I'm siphoning off some of it. So I literally sometimes it's not a secret at all, right? So you can write for medium.com right now. You can write for elitedaily.com right now. You can write for thoughtcatalog.com right now. These sites have huge amounts of traffic, and they're looking for people like you to submit content there. And if your content is great, they will promote your content for you and send people your way. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned is how can I, be the opening act for one of these big media platforms, just like I was an opening act for a musician, and I can inherently get fans from that standpoint. And that's really how the whole process began, man.
Okay, cool. So then now, and so was this between that and Ambitious? You did a few other projects though, correct? At least one that I think comes to mind when I look at it is the Product Pro systems. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, but maybe kind of your progression from working these media outlets for the entertainment industry for musicians and whatnot to kind of what you're doing today with Ambitious.
Yeah, totally. So when I first partnered with my partner Nick, we launched a company called the Product Pros. So in the music business, I had created an information product to teach musicians how to grow their business. So when I get an article on Mashable, in it would say, hey, Greg is a music marketing expert, go read about his stuff on his website. And it would link back to my website. And when I got him to my website, I would have them give me their name and email address. I give them a free report, whatever it is. And I would try to get them to buy information products. So, a series of videos or online courses, things of that nature. And when I first partnered with Nick, what we decided to do was to teach and actually do the work of creating information products for businesses. So one of the biggest pain points people have when they want to create an information product is actually creating the information product. They don't know what to create it on. They don't know how to shoot the videos. They don't know how to edit anything. They don't know how to create workbooks. They don't know how to do all this stuff. So I just said, dude, I know how to do this. Let's just do it. And when we created the Product Pros, we used the exact same strategy that I'd used in the music business to grow that business. So one of the first things I did was I looked at where are all the places that people trying to be online entrepreneurs hang out. And at the time, it was like Mixergy.com, Andrew Warner's site, Entrepreneurs on Fire, all these places. And I did the exact same thing. And I said, hey, how can I write for you? Or how can I be a guest on your show? And we funneled in traffic, and we built a huge business creating information products for other people. We did the same thing when we launched our agency. So we have a direct response agency. We did the same thing. We were like, where do business owners who need marketing help hang out? And so here I went to the niche industries and leveraged their media. So I write for Profitable Dentist magazine. It sounds silly, it sounds lame, but dentists read Profitable Dentist magazine. I write for Insurance Newsnet magazine, which is a magazine for insurance providers. So high-end insurance providers read Insurance Newsnet magazine. So we did the same thing. And now as we started to create Ambitious, what we were always doing is we were using someone else's media platform. So Profitable Dentist, I don't own that. I don't control it. I don't get control over the distribution. I don't get control over who reads it, who opens it. I don't get the analytics. It's a great source for me to get traffic, but I don't really own that media, right? They control everything. They just tell me, hey, Greg, we need 500 words from you and it's due, October 10th, right? That's all I get. What we wanted to do when we created Ambitious was to create our own platform so that people can leverage it in the same way that I was leveraging it. So we have a lot of writers that contribute for us. We have a lot of video content that we're about to start releasing where we're developing video creators. But we wanted to own and control the platform. Where I think the most power comes in this entire world is when you own and control your own media platform, right? So just like Tom, you own and control this podcast. You get control over the guests. You get control over when the episodes go live. You can control over the show notes. You can control over the promotion of it. You have control over all of that. And I think that's really, really important because now you have leverage. People want to be guests on your show, right? So you have leverage because you have media that they want. So we wanted to create something like that, a large platform that we could have, we control the distribution. We control the readership. We control people, giving us their email address. Well, guess what? We get to pick what emails we send out. We get to pick what products we want to promote to that person. And so for us, it was about creating media that we own and control. And I think that's the most powerful thing that you can do as an entrepreneur or someone wanting to be in the creative space, to be in a business, is to control your own media. That could be as simple as an email list. That could be a blog. That could be a podcast. That could be a physical print newsletter that you send out. But you want to have media that you own and control. And that's where Ambitious came from is, hey, we're using all these other people's platforms. What if we built our own platform where we can build and an insane amount of leverage and do a lot of good at the same time.
Totally. Okay, cool. So let's talk about, that I guess there's a couple topics to cover, but I say first and foremost, maybe something that might be most applicable to the listeners, whether he or she is building their own business. How do they take us through maybe some of the more practical steps of becoming your own publishing company, of becoming your own media publisher, of building that platform, as you say?
Yeah, so the first place, and this is really 101, but most people forget about this, is you need to define who you want your audience to be. The great thing about business, the great thing about marketing is that you get to define who you want to be your customer, right? So we are not Walmart, we're not Target, we're not one of these, we're not Amazon where anyone can freely walk in, right? We can pick and choose who we do business with, right? Just like Tom, you can pick and choose who you want to be guests. If someone doesn't fit, the show model, you don't have to make them a guest. So you get to control that. So the first part is defining, who do I want on my media platform? Who do I want reading my site? Who do I want seeing my offers? Who do I want seeing my products and services? Mm-hmm. And I want you to really define that. Most people, I want people that have money, right? Or I want business owners, but who do you really want? So, with one of my programs, the Business Advisor, we sell high-end, done-for-you marketing services to financial advisors. I want $1 million producer who's a male, who's conservative, who already spends $250,000 a year in marketing. Like, that is my guy. Like, I don't want the guy who's never done marketing before. I also don't want the guy who just set up shop yesterday. I want the top performers, top producers. So knowing that, now I can start to look for, where does he hang out? What does he currently read? Who are the gurus or experts or high-end leaders that he follows? What type of stuff resonates with him? What type of content is he sharing? What type of content is he consuming? What type of products is he buying? What is he complaining about? So now that I have all of this data that I've just collected on my $1 million producer, spending a ton of money on marketing, now I can think about, what kind of content do I want to create for him? Right? Also, what is the goal that I have for him in consuming my content, right? Mm-hmm. So think about you're creating a podcast, and this is the exact listener that you want for your podcast. Well, what do you want them to do when they listen? Do you want them joining your email list so you can sell them products and services? Or are you just trying to get listenership so you can go and sell sponsorships and get advertising for your podcast? What is the goal that you have with the traffic? Then you create the content, right? Because then you create the content to match everything that I just said. So you got to define the audience, and most people skip that step. You have to see what they want, what they need, what the problems are in the marketplace. The problems you think they have and the problems they actually have are usually different, right? Also, the reason that you might want to create something and the reason that they want to consume something are actually different. So people are looking at media for two purposes, to either to be entertained or to solve a problem that they have. The best types of media combine the two. It's entertainment for problem solving, right? So like this podcast, Tom, the one that you've created, it's entertaining because of the guests that you bring on, but it's also informative. You're actually helping people through the guests that you bring on, but you got to have entertainment within it because they got to listen to like this crazy guy, Greg, talk for 20, 30 minutes, right? So if it's not entertaining, they're not going to stick around because they could be listening to the radio, they could be watching TV, they could be reading a book, they could be, playing video games, whatever it is. So you got to have the entertainment component and you got to have the educational problem solving component. So practical steps, you got to start there. Don't just start, blogging for the sake of blogging or podcasting for the sake of blogging or podcasting. Have that target market, but then also have what you want them to do once they consume the media. Without those two steps, everything that you create is going to fall on deaf ears and you won't get the results that you really want.
So what about people that, and this would be probably specifically at, maybe potentially authors, solopreneur type people, individuals trying to start maybe a side hustle, develop into maybe a more sustainable business with actual like revenue and sustainable revenue streams. What if they're kind of find themselves in multiple areas where they're writing or talking or producing in multiple areas, which it sounds like you've kind of done. How do you bring that to a consistent whole? Do you segment off the various, topics that you cover into their own businesses? Can you wrap them all into one platform? Then let me know if that question makes sense.
Yeah. So if your goal is to make money, so if you're in business, that should be one of your goals, right? You might want to change the world, but you got to make money in order to change the world. So if your goal is to make money, the fastest path to making money is to niche down and solve a specific problem for a specific market, right? marketing should be doing two things talked about earlier. Should be to attract the people that you want in your life and to repel everyone else. So if you are an author and say you just wrote a book on, success principles, which a lot of authors do, there's nothing wrong with that. That book is applicable to a lot of different markets. So you could success principles for financial advisors, success principles for solopreneurs, success principles for lawyers, or success principles for dentists, or success principles for internet entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter, but find a way where you can take those success principles and make it very specific to a specific person. That is going to be the fastest path to money. People don't like to hear that because they like to hear that I can save the world and I can help everyone. But if you want the fastest path to get your first sale, to get your first coaching client, consulting client, is to niche down and become their rock star. Once you speak their language, you start talking to them, they start identifying with you in a very, very cool way. So my marketing services outside of ambitious.com, my marketing services, what I do for financial advisors is the exact same thing I do for lawyers, that I do for dentists, that I do for chiropractors. But when I speak to financial advisors and I use their terminology, and I know that they have compliance and they have regulations, and I know the pain in the ass that FINRA is, and I know that every high-end financial advisor does dinner seminars and they hate doing the steak dinners and they hate schlepping out to the Ruth's Chris and doing these presentations. When I can speak to their language, even though I'm selling the same stuff to a lawyer, the end product is the same. This financial advisor listens and he goes, wow, like Greg knows me. Greg gets me. He is my guy. So therefore, I'm going to buy stuff from him. So in that context, I do have a specific podcast and a specific website and a specific content strategy just for that marketplace. I do have a specific strategy for lawyers. I have a specific strategy for dentists and so on and so forth in different verticals. So if you're looking for the fastest path to the money, you have to connect with an audience, connect to their fears, with their problems, what keeps them up at night, speak their language, know what they hate, know what they love, know what gets their buttons turned on. That's going to get you the fastest path to success, right? Not to say that something else won't resonate, but if you look at the best guys, whether it be online guys, offline guys, guys that you buy from, when the reason you like them is because you feel like they know you resonate with them, you're kind of like them, you maybe want to be them a little bit, you want to emulate them, and it's because they're speaking directly to you. They've found a niche and they're speaking directly to you, right? So you take some of the top online marketing guys, and you guys might know these people, you might not, but I work a lot with Jack Canfield from Chicken Soup for the Soul. The only guy that sold more books with him is like the different gods of the different religions. No one else has sold more books than this guy. But outside of the success marketplace, no one knows his name. Right? He has done a very, very good job of being the most known person in the success industry, but no one else in the entire world knows him. And there's a lot of money to be made just within that marketplace. So hopefully that answers your question, Tom, is like you got to go as specific as possible to find the fastest path to making money. Now, as you grow, that can totally expand, but you can't be all things to all people. It's very expensive to market to everyone. It is very inexpensive for me to market just to $1 million producers that spend a lot of money on marketing and advertising. Much more effective than trying to target every financial advisor, and obviously much more cost effective than trying to reach every business owner on the planet.
Good stuff. So I love that, though. While it's, I think to some degree, depending on how much somebody's read or studied this stuff, the idea of like defining your target audience, defining your, I know some people call it avatar or whatever. I liked how you defined it yourself, how you kind of described that process of starting very specifically with who it is, because and then going from there, moving from there, because I think a lot of people have this idea in their head, well, I'd like to see something like this, and they think, well, just because, well, they think, well, I want to see this, maybe making the assumption that, or not even maybe even being consciously aware of the assumption, but that there are other people out there like you. But I think the big question is, and this is the challenge, is if you're producing content for somebody like yourself, which there's nothing wrong with that, and people have definitely been successful doing that, are you the type of person you'd want as your potential client or potential customer? And I think when you kind of stop to think about it that way, I think the answer is, for me, I look at it, I'm like, actually, no. Like, I actually wouldn't want me as a customer. So you have to take a step back and realize, like, even if, because I say this kind of to bring it back to the person who's just starting out, who's just thinking about where do I go with this platform, or who's struggling maybe to get traction. And it might be because you're making the assumption of who you're speaking to, and you're just assuming that because you enjoy the content you're producing, that people will. And that might not be a great place to be at. You might want to reframe and kind of follow Greg's advice here and think specifically in terms of who's actually going to be buying your product or service. But I love that.
Can I throw in 2 cents? Is so when I first started, and this will take it back to people who are just first starting. So I did a lot of online marketing, social media marketing, and so I found myself going to a lot of social media like meetups locally, right? So there was like Bar Camp Orlando, and there was Social Media Club Orlando, and all these places, and I would surround myself with 30 other people like me, right? But they were not my end consumer or my end client. So I would just get in a room, and yeah, I could talk shop, and we could talk about the cool new plugins or new ninja gadgets or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When I changed to now going to the local real estate association meetup and speaking there and meeting those people, well, those people bought my stuff. Right? It was a really, really big change of changing your circle from hanging around people that are just like you and do the same thing as you do to hanging around the people who are actually going to buy your products and services. That's a really, really big change because most people, so if you're getting into podcasting, you might start, hanging out in all the podcasting forums and all the podcasting Facebook groups, and you go to the podcasting event. And there's nothing really inherently wrong with that. You're learning your craft, you're doing stuff. But what if you were the only podcaster at a real estate conference? You're going to be the guy that you're going to stand out. You're going to get clients. You're going to, oh, what's this podcasting thing? Well, hey, I can help you set up your podcast or whatever you're selling. I don't know what you're selling, but change who. The other thing, Tom, that I think people have is they think that they're diminishing themselves and their skills by niching down. Well, Greg, I'm so much more than just the guy that helps real estate agents. Dude, there's 300,000 freaking real estate agents that make more than $500,000 a year in the United States.
Isn't that true, though?
Is that so enough funny. Clients for you?
Yeah.
Like, what more do you need?
Exactly. No, I love it because I love it because it's advice I need to hear too, and that's kind of like exactly where I'm at. Where it's like, you know what? That's it. Like I know it to be true, but how hard sometimes I think to niche down, to focus and say, I will focus on these people and serve these people exclusively at the not the expense, but and specifically ignore everybody else, and specifically like choose not to work for or help other people and outside of that area. Because I think the natural inclination is, well, I'll sell my product to whoever, I'll sell my service to whoever, I'll help as many people as possible. And it reminds me of Documentum, the case study from Documentum in Crossing the Chasm, one of my favorite books. And they talk about how this is a multi-billion-dollar company, but they had stagnated at, I don't know, several $1 million a year. And when the new CEO came in, he basically their original plan was to serve anybody who needed digital document management, which is basically every business in the world. Yeah. And so they were essentially serving everybody. And in so far as doing that, they obviously had some amount of revenue, but they stagnated. And any business that's stagnating is obviously internally dying. Is kind of it was, at least essentially that's the truth for a lot of companies. So he niched down. He focused instead on just like he niched down and niched down to where he was serving maybe like 1,000 total, or less than 1,000. I was thinking it was like 100 people that his company could potentially serve, like 100 potential customers. And as soon as they got over 50 of them, they had super saturated, or they had market penetration in that sub-market, if that makes sense. And that's when it blew up to that was the start of things to come, because then they were able to expand into other areas. And it was like the fact that they focused on that one area allowed them to then expand. Whereas if you start from the broad, we serve everybody, I don't think you actually have that opportunity. I don't know. That's a long-winded story, but I don't know what your thoughts are on that in terms of the ability to actually expand after you've niched down and to grow from there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've done. Is you conquer one vertical, and here's the cool thing that happens is once you become known in one spot, other people outside are paying attention to you, and they start saying, hey, what you just did for him, can you do that for us? Right? And the business expands naturally. I love that. And kind of I'll close kind of on this is like, so there's admiration and wanting to be loved by the people in your peer circle, right? So it's like if you're an SEO, like obviously you want to write for Moz.com, right? They're like the kings, right? But they're not the people actually buying your product and service. So it's nice to get that industry, like, great, kudos, like Rand Fishkin thinks you're awesome. Like, that's great. I only want to be the most known person to the person that can write me a check. Checks count, right? People who put money in my bank account are the people that I listen to. They're the people that I want my opinion from. So, in some circles, like I'm hated as a direct response marketer. But guess what? You're not voting with your wallet. I only count the votes from the people who cut me checks. And I have a lot of people that cut me checks. So really think about that as like, if you're a social media guy, do you want to write for this like Social Media Examiner? There's nothing wrong with that, but just know that that's a peer network, right? So that's other people trying to do the same things as you. Again, instead, can you be the only social media guy that's created a relationship or partnership with the National Association of Realtors to where you're their social media guy? And guess what? You're going to get a lot of checks. You're going to get a lot of credit cards. And ultimately, if that's what you're in business for, then great. Now, do I do the ego play? Like, do I want to be known in the marketing industry? Of course I do, right? I have an ego like everybody else. But I take care of what I need to take care of to pay the bills first. And then I go for the ego play.
I wrote this down. I think I'll have to re-listen to the interview to capture it, but I wrote it down as, quote, "I only want to be known by the people who will write me a check," end quote. I'm gonna write that on my whiteboard here.
And they're also the only people whose opinions matter.
That's
right?
exactly
Are the people that cut you checks. Like, I don't care if another marketing person thinks my sales letter sucks. My client thinks it's awesome and it made them a lot of money. Yep. So again, opinions only count from the people that are going to do business with you. And that's why it's hard. Like, so when you're first getting started, your friends might be like, Tom, what the heck are you doing, dude? Like, that's a crazy idea. Like, but your friend's never going to buy your crap, right? So don't take advice from your mom who's never started a business. Like, take advice from the person who can actually cut you a check. That should be the only people whose opinions that you take in this world.
God,
at least in the business space. Right?
Yeah, totally. But it's so
take mom's advice on like marriage and kids.
Yeah.
But
No, I love it. Okay, cool. Really good stuff. Dropping some serious wisdom bombs. I hope people are getting as much out of this as I definitely am, and I think they will. But let's bring this back to ambitious.com and what you're doing to grow and scale this. So it's obviously it's a platform for millennials. I've checked it out. I scoped it out. It looks like you're doing some great things with it. But tell me about the process of kind of building ambitious.com.
Yeah, so it's a beast. It is one of the hardest things I've ever done. I thought it was going to be an easy thing, and now I know that I'm crazy. The good news is that if it's hard, it means that other people are much less willing to do it, which is great, right? So if you're doing something that's difficult, you can tell the entire world about it and they won't copy you because they're like, oh, wow, it's a lot of work. So we have kind of a national brand where we're just writing, your typical online content pieces. Like I just put something up this week, which is like the 11 people every 20-something needs to know, the X number of things that, every 20-something entrepreneur doesn't have time for. So we're writing like these kind of evergreen type posts in that vein. But what we're really doing to grow and scale is we are going into mid-market towns and partnering up with universities to create content to become the definitive voice of the 20-something in those mid-markets. The reason why I want to go after mid-markets is because everyone talks to New York, LA, Chicago, San Francisco, yada, yada. No one's talking to where I live in Orlando. No one's talking to, Madison, Wisconsin, Boulder, Colorado, Austin, Texas, Greenville, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. No one's talking to these markets. And there's a lot of people in those cities who they, for like a dude, right? So me and you, like, I read GQ magazine and I'm like, this is awesome, but I live in Orlando. I'm not wearing 3 scarves in July, Like, so while you're giving me good information, you're not talking to me. And I really want to talk to people in these mid-markets because we can become a driving force. We can really become a voice of recommendation. So this is a writer downer. I don't like to do reviews. I like to make recommendations. And so when I make a recommendation, that means that someone might actually take that recommendation. Then they can start building trust with us. If they take a recommendation to go to, a state park that we have recommended that they go do, and we recommend this run to be their first run, to do their first ever mountain climb or their first ever hike. Now they're going to trust us. Now when I come in and I try and sell them a product or try and sell them a service or do something like that, they're like, I trust these guys. Like every time they make a recommendation, I go and I do it and I have a better life. Well, now I should buy their stuff. So we're doing the scaling thing by getting writers from these different mid-market towns and becoming, like Ambitious Orlando, Ambitious Boulder, Ambitious Tampa, Ambitious all these different cities. And then our revenue model is going to be a combination of advertising, but also commerce. So I'm a firm believer that advertising is not a sustainable business model for most people because you're always chasing the dollar, but you're also chasing the page view, which means that you'll sacrifice quality and integrity to get the page view just so you can get the ad dollars. While I do believe, though, at some level, fundamentally, advertising is not a bad thing because you can monetize the person who's just a window shopper. Where retail stores, so you go in the mall, just because you walk in a store, they can't monetize that. But on a website, on a network, something online, you can monetize the person who's just window shopping. And that's what advertising, to me, serves as for the window shopper. But for the person who wants to take it longer, not only do I have the media platform, which is the website and the different content distribution points that we have, my real media network is my email list. I want to build a loyal following of subscribers in all of these towns and make recommendations to them on a commerce level where I'm actually selling them either trips, selling them experiences, selling them information products, selling them guidebooks, all these different things where we're actually creating commerce. taking this to the next level is, when you look at a network like Fox News, right? Whether you love Fox News or hate Fox News, people know and fall in love with or hate the journalists at Fox News, right? So Bill O'Reilly, great example. You love him or you hate him, but a lot of freaking people love him. What Fox News has done is they've actually built an entire business around Bill O'Reilly. He has New York Times bestselling books. He goes on speaking tours. He has products. He has licensing deals. He has merchandise. I don't believe that that's happened really well in online journalistic forums. So like BuzzFeed, I love BuzzFeed, but I have no freaking clue who wrote any article ever on BuzzFeed. No idea, right? Yep. It's just another person that wrote 10 funny cat videos. And so what I want to do is I want to, A, create brands around the personalities on the site. So A, I can have 100 rock stars who have channels on Ambitious, but then B, from my background, I can also now not just offer them a place where they can create content, but I can help them to create a real business. Because most people are freelancing. There's, they're getting $20 to write an article, $100 to write an article. Well, what if you were getting that money to write the article, but then you're getting people into your own platform and you could actually sell them stuff. And you now had a real business. You weren't just fighting for page views and writing 500 words at a time, but you actually had a business behind it. And that allows me to have 50 businesses, 100 businesses, 1,000 businesses from all of the content creators that we build on the site. Now, not everyone that writes content for our site is going to have that opportunity, of course, because we want the best people, the people that have the personalities, that have connection with the audience. But that is that's kind of our strategy from a business standpoint of what we're doing with Ambitious is really these mid-market towns, developing personalities and developing commerce behind those personalities.
Awesome. Epic stuff. And so as you're doing this, as you're growing this platform, what have you found to be kind of maybe taking us into the nitty-gritty for a second and the more tactical aspects of it? What have you found to be the your highest leverage activities where you've been able to produce the greatest results so far?
So involving people, and this it should make sense as I say it, but like the best performing content that has had the furthest reach, the most shareability, but also just created the most commotion, got the most people to sign up to email lists, is when we involved other people. So writing an article, one of our best articles that we wrote were 10, I don't remember the exact number, but I'll say 10 female comedians who were giving Amy Schumer a run for her funny. Not money, funny, because there's a pun, right? And we involved these 10 comedians. So we got quotes from them. We asked them, like, what's your best clip? We got their videos from them. And then when the post went live, all these comedians shared it into their networks, into their comedic, forums and boards and all these places. And all of a sudden, instead of us just promoting that content, now we had 10 others promoting that content as well. Some of them had hundreds of thousands of followers. Some of them had, just 10,000 followers. But that one post, just out of those 10 people, got us a reach of, millions of people that we never would have had ourselves. So by involving these people, we got a much bigger reach. It affected more people. And then all the other comedians benefited from it, because if Jane shared the post and, her followers saw it, they came to the page and they saw Susie's comedy, well, now Susie benefited from it, right? And so it was this whole cyclical thing. And so my encouragement is to involve other people. So, Tom, you have guests on your podcast, right? So when this podcast goes live, I'm going to tweet it. I'm going to share it. I'm going to Facebook it. I'm going to do all the stuff that I'm going to do. And now you're gaining access to an audience that you wouldn't have had if you just did the show by yourself, right? So the more people that you can involve and get them on board, and obviously the more people with influence, the better results that you're going to get. And that has been time and time again, every time we do something like that, it's when the traffic spikes. It's when the amount of awareness spikes. It's a growth path for us. So involve people. So if you're just getting started out, maybe this is a case study, right? So involve your best customers or clients. Involve your people. Maybe it's just your staff. Interview people in your space. So if you are a real estate agent, interview a mortgage broker, interview someone from a title company, interview, a home stager, interview an architectural design firm. Like, how can you get other people involved in what you do? And you might think that you have a boring, career. I think most of you actually have cool careers. When I was checking out the site but how can you involve other people? Because through that, you actually get much greater leverage and your reach can go much further and you can impact more people. So that's, from a tactical standpoint, that's something that I recommend to everybody to do as quick as possible and to leverage their networks.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, Greg. Well, I've already taken up more than your time than I should have. We're coming up to the 40-minute mark on the podcast. So I just want to leave it with a chance for you to maybe say some parting words to anybody who's getting started or starting to kind of grow their brand or business. Any final words of encouragement or advice?
Yeah, it's to start, right? So and that's always the big thing, right? So, I don't expect anyone to take advice for everything that I said today, right? So, but is there one thing? Is it hey, I am going to write one article where I'm going to involve 5 different people in it? Is it, I want to get one media mention? Like, I want to write for Medium. I want to write for Mashable. I want to write for TechCrunch. I want to write for real estate industry site. Find one piece of media that you can write in where your potential clients are hanging out, right? That would be my challenge to you. Write for one piece of media. That could be a newsletter, that could be a blog, it could be a physical magazine, it doesn't matter. One piece of media where the person that you want to buy your stuff hangs out. If you do that, you will see traction, you will see results, and you also get to say, hey, I was as seen on whatever that media is. Do that, and the momentum that you will get from that will be you'll thank me and you'll thank Tom. And I think that's all you can ask for, right?
Awesome, Greg. And for those listening, check out ambitious.com. And Greg, is there any other place you want to direct people, or if they want to get in contact with you or check out what you're doing?
Yeah, all the social media is just /Greg Rollett. So the Facebook, the Twitter, all those, that's probably it. Like, I don't know how to use the Snapchat. I'm not cool enough to figure that out. But yeah, just /Greg Rollett, reach out. And obviously I'll be hanging out in your community. If people have questions about what we talked about, I'm happy to answer them as there as well. But this has been awesome, man. I had a great time.
And that wraps up another broadcast of In the Trenches. If you'd like to check out the show notes, just head over to tommorkes.com/podcast, where you'll find the latest broadcast. And if you enjoyed today's broadcast, please do me a favor and leave a rating and review on iTunes. That's the fastest, simplest, easiest way to support my creative work, and it would really mean a lot to me. As always, this is Tom Morkes, and if you're listening to this, you are the resistance.